The film begins with a woman reciting a poem in her enchanting voice. As she continues on, a small lighthouse situated on top of an island can be seen. The house casts light upon the dark sea as the woman proceeds to sing a song. Her name is Bronog and she's a gorgeous woman. Bronog resides in the lighthouse with her husband, Connor, and her young son called Ben. Inside the lighthouse, Ben helps his mother prepare a nursery for his sister who is yet to be born. He's very excited about the arrival of his sibling and helps Bronog paint beautiful murals in the nursery. Little Ben then tries to join his mother and starts singing a lullaby for his sister. Just then, Connor comes in and tells the two that it's bedtime. Ben smiles and shows his father the picture of a selkie that he has drawn. He then shows the entire journey of the selkie turning into a seal so that she can send all the fairies home. Ben's family has always lived in the lighthouse, which is in the middle of the sea. His family is very happy. Connor works as the lighthouse keeper and happily spends time on the island with his son, his pregnant wife, and their sheepdog, Koo. Ben loves his dog and so the two go to sleep together. Before falling asleep, Bronog gives Ben an ancient shell that Bronog's mother had given her a long time ago. Ben places the shell near his ear and that's when he hears the song of the sea. It's a very melodious tune. Soon enough, Ben falls asleep while his mother sings him a lullaby. However, in the middle of the night, Bronog's stomach starts hurting. Ben watches as his mother disappears that night, presumably passing away after childbirth. She leaves behind her daughter whose name is Saoirse. It turns out that Ben's mother must leave and return to the sea because she is actually a selkie. Selkies, who are also known as seal folk, are mythological beings capable of changing from seal to human form by shedding their skin. After Bronog's departure, Connor is left to raise his children all alone in the lighthouse by the sea. 6 years pass by, and now Ben has grown into a young boy. He sits at the beach with Koo, while reading the story of the giant Maclure and his dogs. Just then, Koo runs towards the sea's waves as they crash at the beach. Ben continues reading his favorite story and that's when he is joined by his sister, Saoirse. She is a young, sweet girl who happens to be mute. Ever since Bronog left, Connor has been broken and tries his hardest to fix things. But even then, he can't seem to get rid of the rage Ben has for his sister. The boy blames his sister for their mother's disappearance, and even though Saoirse wants to get close to her brother, Ben can't stand her at all. He always pushes her away. This makes her really sad. While she is sitting all alone, Saoirse notices a group of seals smiling at her. She walks towards them without a thought in her head. Koo and Ben try to stop her, but she doesn't listen to them at all. As Saoirse gets deeper and deeper into the sea, Koo gets really worried and runs after her. This causes Ben to get dragged along as well. As a result, Ben almost ends up drowning and yells at his sister for trying to eliminate him as well. The seals watch all of this unfold and then swim away. Ben takes Saoirse away and into their house. There, they notice Connor looking at the vast sea with a very miserable face. It seems as though he misses his wife a lot. Ben sees his father and complains about Saoirse, but Connor doesn't pay any heed to it. Instead, he simply walks up to the little girl and showers her with love. Ben gets angry because of this and starts reminiscing about the moments he spent with his mother. Since it's Saoirse's birthday, she and Ben are visited by their grandmother, whom they call Granny. She's a very stern woman who hates the fact that Connor and his family is miles away from civilization. Granny looks at Saoirse and mocks her for not being able to speak yet. That's when Connor tries to defend his daughter by saying that she'll learn in her own time. Granny just scoffs at that and dresses Saoirse up in a pretty dress. However, Saoirse isn't interested in it and just walks up to Ben's room. There, she sees the ancient shell. She tries to blow it, but Ben just snatches it away from her. The two siblings then go to celebrate her 6th birthday. Just as they're about to click a family photo, Ben dunks his sister's face in her birthday cake. This makes Connor really angry, so he sends the little boy back to his room. Not only is it Saoirse's birthday, but also Bronog's passing anniversary. Because of this, Connor walks out of his home and goes to pay tribute to his late wife. The same night, Ben scares Saoirse with a story of Maclure and his mother Matcha, the owl witch, who stole his feelings and turned him to stone. She is terrified by this story and starts shivering. Ben goes on to say that no fairies come out on Halloween night for fear of Matcha turning them into stone. After Ben and Koo have fallen asleep, Saoirse goes to get the seashell again and starts playing with it. To her surprise, the tune of the shell's melody leads her to a white sealskin coat in Connor's closet. Saoirse wears it excitedly and walks to a group of seals in the sea. Turns out that the little girl is a selkie as well. As soon as she enters the water, Saoirse turns into a seal and has a lot of fun while exploring all sorts of sea life. However, after swimming for some time, she is found by Granny, who insists on taking the children to the city. Connor reluctantly agrees after seeing the danger he had put his daughter through. Despite Ben's protests, Connor locks the coat in a chest and throws it deep into the sea. The next day, Connor seats Saoirse inside Granny's car. On the other hand, Ben doesn't want to leave, so he hides inside the lighthouse. Even then, Granny drags him away while Ku and Connor are left behind. Ku cries and begs to be taken aboard as well, but fails. This makes Ben really emotional. He then starts sobbing violently. In an attempt to comfort him, the boatman shows Ben some seals in the sea. They seem to be saying farewell to Saoirse, but no one really understands it. Saoirse tries to comfort Ben as well, but he just pushes her away. He loathes her even more now since he thinks that it's because of Saoirse that he has been taken away from Connor and Ku. Meanwhile, Ku can't stand being away from Ben. He jumps into the sea and starts swimming towards the other end. The seals assist him in doing so. Ben also starts making a map in order to escape and go back to the lighthouse. Despite the long journey, Ben makes sure that he draws each and every landmark on his way to the city. Ben and Saoirse finally reach Granny's house. Both of them hate it there but can't do anything about it. While exploring the house, Saoirse comes across a long coat and an ancient shell that seems to be the same one that Ben has. She wears the coat and starts playing with the seashell, alerting the owls and fairies to her. Granny comes to find out about this as well and gets enraged. Because of this, she locks both Ben and Saoirse up in a room. Granny then throws the long coat outside her house. It turns out that the coat isn't ordinary. It's actually a selkie coat. As it's Halloween night, some of Match's trapped fairies track Saoirse down. They stand outside Granny's house in search of the selkie in hopes that they will be freed. Just then, they find the selkie coat inside a trash can. This confirms their suspicions, and so they start looking around for Saoirse. Meanwhile, Ben and Saoirse escape Granny's home and run away. They want to go back to the lighthouse, but little do they know that the fairies are following them. At one point, the trapped fairies get to Saoirse and kidnap her. Ben gets dragged along with his sister as well. He soon reaches a tunnel-like place with paintings all over. While exploring the place, Ben gets to where Saoirse is being held. He watches closely as the fairies try to entertain his sister. They sing songs for her while the little girl plays her seashell. However, the shell's melody gets noticed by Match's owls. They soon start flying all over the city in search of the fairies and their selkie. Inside the tunnel, the fairies want Saoirse to sing her selkie song so that they can be freed and can finally go back to their homes. They are hopeful that Saoirse will allow them to return to the fairies' land. However, the fairies have no idea that the little girl is actually mute. Ben shows himself just then and the fairies are shocked. While talking to Ben, they realize that the coat they've got isn't the real selkie coat. It's the one that Connor had thrown deep into the sea. The fairies then plan to retrieve the coat, but that's when they get attacked by Match's owls. They try their hardest to fight off the owls and save Saoirse. Unfortunately, the fairies get turned into stone. Just as they're being turned into statues, one of the fairies asks Ben to find the selkie coat. Once found, the little girl can sing the selkie song and free hundreds of fairies that have been turned into stone. Ben understands this and takes his sister with him. Together, they climb onto a country bus where Ben shows his map to the bus driver. The driver offers to drop them off at the dock, and Ben agrees. After traveling for some time, Saoirse insists that the two get off and start walking instead. Ben begrudgingly agrees, and while doing so, the two run into Ku, who had been following them. Ku leads the way to the lighthouse while Ben and Saoirse follow him. Halfway through, Saoirse starts growing ill. Ben sees this but doesn't know what to do. That's when they come across a holy well. They take shelter inside the place for the night, and plan to leave for the lighthouse early in the morning. Since she's getting sicker and sicker, Saoirse dives into the sacred well in hopes that she will be cured. Ben panics after seeing his sister vanish inside the well. He and Ku hurriedly follow Saoirse. Inside, Ben looks around for his sister everywhere but can't seem to find her. This is because Match's owls have already captured Saoirse. Ben continues floating around, and that's when he ends up meeting the great Sinachai. The Sinachai has extremely long hair which glows every once in a while. Ben knows about the great Sinachai because his mother used to tell multiple stories about him. As time passes, the Sinachai lights up the entire well with his hair. It turns out that every strand of this magical entity's hair holds a story. Ben learns about this, and soon he gets to watch the real story of the giant Mac-Lur and his dogs. Legend says that Mac-Lur went through such anguish and pain that he cried a whole ocean. It soon got to the point where his tears started to bring tsunamis, and the local people were certain that they'd drown. Mac-Lur's mother, Matcha, couldn't watch her son in so much pain, so she sent her owls to take away his feeling and turn him into stone. At present, the stone has been transformed into an island where the lighthouse is situated. After hearing about Mac-Lur's sad story, Ben asks the great Sinachai about Saoirse. The Sinachai desperately searches through his hair to eventually learn that Saoirse has been kidnapped by Matcha. If not saved soon, Matcha will turn the little girl into stone as well. It turns out that the only reason Saoirse is mute is that she doesn't have her selkie coat with her. Every selkie has a coat that they need to keep with them at all times. The Sinachai then tells Ben that if Saoirse isn't given her coat soon, she will pass away. She was sick because of this very reason as well. In order to get restored back to her healthy self, Saoirse needs to sing the Song of the Sea while wearing her coat. However, if she isn't successful in doing so, she along with all the fairies will be turned into stone forever. Ben panics after hearing this and tries his hardest to find his baby sister. The Senichi also tries to help Ben and gives the little boy one of his hairs that will lead him to Matcha. As Ben follows the hair, it shows him that his mother, who was a selkie herself, had been forced to return to the ocean when his sister was born. Ben gets emotional when he sees his mother's vision after such a long time. He then continues moving until he reaches Matcha's residence. He's very nervous, but musters up all the courage he has. As he enters inside, he sees Matcha, the owl witch, sitting in front of a fireplace. She's an old owl lady who is half turned into stone. Ben sternly asks Matcha to let go of Saoirse, but she doesn't listen to him at all. Instead, she goes on to say that Saoirse will only make people feel their grief and pain. Matcha just wants to get rid of feelings so that people don't have to mourn anymore. She then goes on to explain that when McClure suffered from a broken heart, she turned him into an island near their home. She is determined to do the same for everyone, even herself. Matcha tries to capture all of Ben's feelings as well. But just then, Ben hears Ku's barking and comes back to his senses. He asks Matcha to help him, which enrages the owl witch. She tries to attack Ben, but the little boy somehow manages to escape. He then runs upstairs and sees Saoirse in a pitiful condition. All her feelings are gone and she's very weak. Ku and Ben then look around to find the jar in which Matcha has captured all her feelings. Maybe if she gets them back, she will understand Ben's desperation and let him go. Ben retrieves the seashell their mother had given him and asks to play it. The shell's melody breaks all the jars present in the room, and Matcha gets her feelings back. Ben is ecstatic to see that his plan has worked. He compliments Saoirse for her bravery and even apologizes to her for not being a good brother. However, Saoirse's condition is even worse now. Her hair is completely white, and she can barely stand. Ben gets really worried after seeing this and asks Matcha to help. Matcha, who is now a changed person, feels extremely bad for putting Saoirse through all this. She lets them go, and even gets Ku to fly them back home. Ku quickly travels through the entire city and reaches the lighthouse. There, Ben desperately looks around for the coat but can't seem to find it. Just then, Connor comes to know about Saoirse's declining health and attempts to take her to a hospital. On the other hand, Granny is near the island trying to find Ben and Saoirse. As Connor proceeds to sail back to the main city, Ben dives into the sea in search of Saoirse's coat. Connor is stunned to see this and jumps in behind Ben in order to save him. Inside the sea, Ben gets guided towards the coat and so he quickly recovers it with the help of the seals. Connor finally pulls Ben out of the water. Ku then takes the selkie coat out of Ben's hands and places it on top of Saoirse. As soon as she wears it, Saoirse's voice comes back, but her health is still not fully restored. A few spirits rise out of the water which causes Connor's boat to topple over. As soon as they hit the water, Saoirse transforms into a young seal and swims back to the lighthouse along with her family. There, Ben tries to get Saoirse to sing, and she eventually sings the Song of the Sea. The song causes all the fairies to rise and travel to McClure. Saoirse also seems to be recovering as her hair goes back to brunette. Soon enough, even McClure is transformed back into his original form. He reunites with Matcha, his dogs, and the fairies and finally goes back home to the fairyland. Suddenly, their mother appears out of the sea and summons Saoirse towards her. She then prepares to depart with her daughter, but Ben pleads to let Saoirse stay with them. Since she is half human, the choice remains with Saoirse. If she hands over her coat, then she can live the rest of her life as a human with Ben and Connor. Saoirse hears all this and wishes to remain behind with her father and brother, even though it means giving up all her selkie powers and becoming fully human. Ronog happily accepts her daughter's decision and takes her coat. She then walks up to Connor, who tells her that he loves her a lot. He promises to love her forever and they kiss. That's when a very tearful Ben asks Bronog to stay as well, but she is unable to. Bronog then asks her son to remember her in all his stories and songs. Finally, Bronog says that she'll always love him and kisses his forehead. After a tearful farewell, Ben and his family happily return home to their island. There, they see Granny hurriedly running toward them. She asks them if they're okay, to which Connor replies that they are. He then tells her that he's now well enough to take care of his children. The movie finally ends with Ben's family happily painting a mural of their home, Bronog, and the fairies. They all celebrate Ben's birthday, and Ben and Saoirse, now closer than ever, go swimming with Ku and the seals in the ocean.